Hey, welcome to another episode of Dying to Listen, presented by the Disc Golf Dyers Guild. Today we have a very special guest, Keith Lempa, the guy who hates stamps. He is the founder and co-owner of DiscDying.com. So get ready to learn something, because I know I will. Keith, thanks for joining us today. We'll jump right in. So, you play disc golf, correct?
Yeah, I played like one or two times, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When was that first time you played?
First time I played was probably, it was right after the original, like, financial crisis in 2007-8 timeframe. I just bought a house, like, right before everything crashed. And my buddy Kendon, was slinging pizzas, and he played disc golf, and he was always talking about disc golf. Something weird about disc golf. People, they like never shut up about it. So, he invited me, and he gave me my first disc to learn on, which was a Star Firebird, which is, honestly pretty much like the best disc that you can learn disc golf on. And I didn't really have any issues with having to unlearn everything that I learned at the beginning, because Firebirds are money. But yeah, that was, started playing in Austin in like around 2008. And then in 2011, I got a different job, and they sent me to California for training. And I played two courses while I was here. I played Golden Gate Park, and I played De La Viega. And literally after I got finished playing De La Viega, I decided to move to California. So about 6 months later I did, and that was, I don't know, like 11, 12 years ago, something like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. So have you played continuously throughout those years, or was it in spurts?
No, like pretty much all in, like every weekend, or, as close to every weekend as possible. I think the longest that I've gone without playing disc golf was maybe 3 months or so, because I like broke my leg, and it was really hard to play disc golf in a wheelchair. It wasn't like impossibly hard, because I did have somebody that could push me, but they're not really very good off-road. So we went to a really flat course. The biggest issue is that when you're playing disc golf in a wheelchair, you just go in circles, because one hand always has the beer and the other one's like driving you, so you're just like around and around. It was a big problem, so I just kind of had to step away or roll away for a little while.
So you would say you had a handicap?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Do you still have that Firebird?
I do. Actually, it's downstairs right below me in my garage. I have like a set of discs that's like pretty much the first ones that I started with. I had the Firebird. I've got a Shark that we found on the course that someone had used as like a rolling tray, and it has like a bunch of like joint burns and stuff in it. But I used it. I mean,
yeah.
that was like the second or third disc I ever got. Yeah, I do still have it.
That's awesome.
Don't throw it, because it's like Star, and like it's kind of old, and I don't want it to shatter if I hit something, which I do a lot.
Well, at least you're not playing in the cold, so there's that. Yeah, maybe you can get some money for your weed disc or something. I don't know, since it's so a collectible item.
Maybe, I don't know.
What got you into disc dyeing?
Man, how much time do we have here? 2 hours?
As much as we want.
Yeah, so my buddy Jeremy, who was like, really, really good friend of mine that lived out here in the Bay Area, one of the first people that I met playing disc golf out here. He always had been dyeing discs, and like he would supply my wife and I with like dye discs. He's like, "Hey, I dyed this new thing," and this was like 2011, 2012 timeframe. So he was like old school, like doing hand cutting and everything. And I knew that dyeing existed just because Jeremy did it, and I had bought I'd bought some dye discs off of like Marshall Street and some Facebook groups and stuff like that. And then in I guess it was 2015, I got diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and which I don't recommend. Like, if anybody ever says, "Hey, you want some lymphoma?" Say no. So I went through chemo, did all that stuff, like beat that fucking bitch, and like as soon as I got cleared to resume normal activities, like by my oncologist, at this point, this was maybe a year after my diagnosis, a little over a year after my diagnosis. I still had like my port in, and I got that taken out, and I planned this like epic like 2-week long disc golf vacation, where we were going to start out camping, and then we were going to fly down to San Diego. We were going to play in San Diego for a bit. We're going to fly up to Portland. We're going to play all around Portland. And then we're going to fly back home over this like 2-week trip. And on the first day of the camping trip, I was walking between a basket and a tee pad at Lake Amador, which is like a pretty dope course that we have in the Sierra foothills. And I slipped on some grass, and I fell down this like embankment thing, and I landed on my like all of my weight with like my bag and everything, and I'm a big dude. I landed all of my weight on my leg, and I split my tibia like a log, and just shattered it into like a bajillion pieces. And so that kind of sucked, and like I had a whole bunch of surgery. I was in I got like 2 plates and 13 pins, and I have scars that go all the way from my knee to my ankle on both sides of my left leg. And as soon as I got out of the nursing home and came back home, or the skilled nursing facility, whatever you want to call it, I tried to go play disc golf. Like I said, I had my wheelchair, and my leg was just like fucked up, and we were trying to play at this like temporary course that we had set up on the Stanford campus, and it was just way too hard. Like I couldn't do it. It was like completely impossible. So I was off work because I was like damaged, and I couldn't play disc golf. So I had to do something disc golf related, and my buddy Jeremy came over, and he was like, "All right, man, we're gonna get you back into this. You have all these discs. We're gonna dye them. I'm gonna show you how to dye them." So he brought over like all of his cutting tools. He brought his vinyl, his like transfer tape, a shit ton of beer, and he showed me the whole process, like start to finish, of how do you trace it onto the vinyl, how do you do the cutting, how do you apply it to the disc. Like I had like a whole day of hands-on experience with the entire process, like start to finish. And back then he was using some sort of, I don't even know what kind of dye it was. It wasn't RIT. It might have been Pilum, but he had got it from some like random place that used to sell dye, like back in say 2013 or 14, something like that. And he showed me the whole process, and like doing alcohol painting and unmasking different pieces to do different colors. And I didn't have anything else to do, so pretty much every day, like my wife and I would just kind of just like dye discs, like do cut stuff and like do designs. And I did like in my typical style, I started with a very simple, just like a simple stylized bird, like a flame bird sort of thing. And then my next one was this like an alligator skull that had like fucking 200 pieces on it or something. I'm like hand cutting it, and that really sucked. Like I had neuropathy from the chemo, and I have like problems with like fine motor control and like constant pressure on my fingers. So I bought a Cameo, and I like brute force taught myself how to use everything in Cameo, all the Silhouette Studio stuff, and then I just like kind of never stopped. And that was I started my first dye, I think, was the beginning of May of 2017. So yeah, I've been doing it for like 5-6 years at this point. I don't know math. I'm not.
Yeah, numbers are hard.
I've done it a number of years.
Yes, many years, many discs. You kind of mentioned it, but what was your first disc that you dyed?
So it was a green turn, I think, like a champion turn, and I yeah, that's obviously not what you want to like do alcohol painting on with no heat and some weird dye that's not ProChem, but yeah, I still have it. It's also downstairs in that box of like special discs. I have my first dye. I have my first stencil cut dye. I have my wife's first dyes. Like she dyes as well. She's pretty good at it. And yeah, so I started with it was definitely a champion disc, because he was like, champion's the best, lasts the longest, which is true. But man, it takes like 7,000 coats to get anything close to opaque black.
So your first dye was on the champion plastic, and it was a stencil that was hand cut.
Yep. Yes.
Fantastic. Do you remember your dyes after that, like your second or third?
The second one was the alligator skull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did that one in pink on a glow gator that was like out of my bag. Like I'm just tying shit out of my bag. Mm-hmm. So it was, a hand cut glow gator with probably 200 pieces on it. Like seriously, it had a bunch. I always just like how far can I push this thing? And my third one, the one that broke me on hand cutting, you may have seen it. It's or I know other people have done it. It used to be really popular, like 5-6 years ago. It looks like a golf ball, but it's all like hexagons, and it's like a 3-dimensional hexagon golf ball, and it's separated by different sizes of like the interstitial lines or whatever. And my God, that was like real hard to cut. And I mean, I didn't have anything else to do. So, I just threw time at it, but it hurt so much. Like it hurt my hand so much to cut. I even tried like different blades and different handles with like different, like handle thingies. I don't know what you call them, but you can see them on pencils. They're the little deals that are supposed to make it easier to write. But I just like, it was just too painful, and also very time consuming. So I talked to my wife about getting a stencil machine or a Cameo cutter, and she agreed because she's amazing. And then the rest is history. I've done a few hundred since then. So,
do you remember the year when you got that machine?
I didn't even last a month hand cutting. So that was like the first. It was the fourth disc. The fourth disc that I did was on a pink star Firebird, and I did. It was like the bagged Firebird that I had. It wasn't the one that I got from my buddy Kendon, but it was my baby that I had in my bag, and I put a Phoenix on it, because it's a Firebird and it's a Phoenix, because I'm like, thinking about art and shit. I'm like, I'm gonna come back, and this is like my thing. I'm I'm gonna throw it, and I did. So yeah.
I find it fascinating. You started out with stencils, and I'm starting to slowly understand your hatred of stamps now.
Them stamps, man.
Yes.
Thumbs down. Yeah. No.
When did you do your first bed of any sort?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the first bed that I did, this was back before I was on the Facebook Dyers group. It probably would have been like mid 2018, like summer of 2018. It was probably about a year after I started. I had seen somebody on, what was back then? I guess it was DG Course Review, which is where, like people posted a bunch of dyes and stuff. And I had seen somebody that had this like really cool gradient. And I'm like, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, you just do a bed. So I got a quick coat worm dip, and I had a Zephyr that I put some random lotion that I had in, and I added like probably half a damn bottle of that quick coat to the dye, and I made essentially just a like a yellow to red outside, like kind of like a fire looking bed thing. So that's one of maybe 10 beds that I've done ever. So
yeah. So if you had to say your signature style, what would it be?
Complexity.
Okay, great.
That's I would say my signature is probably complexity. I don't know. I always just like to find the boundaries of things, and by, like with stenciling, I actually found the edge of what is really feasible with dyeing. And by that, I mean, you eventually get to a point where the pieces are so small that like you can't cut them, like they just come up. But more importantly, with the plastic, like as the dyes age and they fade into the plastic, they just turn into mush. So like I got to a point at one point I did this kind of like wormy dye from I can't remember the dude's name. He was a guy on Reddit that does these like worm designs. He was like really popular with it. Now he does Sisyphus table stuff. But anyway, I did a design of his, and it had like 9,000 something pieces on it. It was like almost 10,000 pieces on a disc that's, like what, 8.5 inches. So I did it, like I had it all, weeded and on there and everything, but it's like the pieces are so close together and there's so little, space to cover the plastic that it looked beautiful, like at first. And this was like a C-line DDX, and but it started fading like almost immediately, and it just all blurs into like one piece. So yeah, I pushed like, how many pieces can I get on this? And then you have to dial it back and figure out like, okay, well, how much color can I get on this? How many different colors can I get? How many things can I put next to each other? Like, I don't know. I was just always trying to just see what was possible. So yeah, I would say my signature style is complexity, or lotion fades, which Tim Perkins taught me how to do. And then I sort of went a different direction with it. And now there's a bunch of people that do those. They're doing a really good job with them. So like shout out to Gary Ufam, who does those really cool like cloud ones, and he uses the brush and lotion and stuff. It's pretty cool.
With stencil dyeing, I feel like it's building a sandcastle or an ice house. It's just slowly going to fade into nothing.
Yep, it's true. Any will do that. Like, I mean, I would say the same thing about cells or, like rainbow beds, like the Brian Eckert signature style of like the cool rainbow stuff that he does. Mm-hmm. Like the same function that allows a disc to be dyed is the same one that causes it to fade and blur.
Have you found the best combination in your mind for either dye and or plastic that holds the crisps lines the best?
So without a doubt, the best dye that you can get is from ProChem and dye. Like, yes, I do sell that on my site, but I only sell it because it is literally the best that you can buy. And the people there are absolutely amazing to work with. Like their whole team. Chris Tanis and I got to go visit them during MVP Open this year, and we got like a tour of their facility, and like top quality, like extremely easy to work with, super vibrant colors. And the fact that it's a powder lets you do, you can do different concentrations, and you can do different mediums, and like really you cannot get better results, in my opinion, from something other than ProChemical and dye. I'm sure there's other people that would totally fight me on that, but and for what I do, they are the best, bar none. As far as plastic goes, I would say that this glimmer, this like clear glimmer, or the white glimmer, Opto X glimmer, is the best. Like, it looks absolutely amazing, and it holds the dye very well. Like, it takes a long time to fade. It's a really hard plastic. They throw great. They look great for a really long time. I mean, it's the best. Like, anything from Trilogy Glimmer in white, or the pink or the blue, like really any glimmer, it's fire. It's super good.
I kind of want to talk more about the ProChem stuff. How did you start working with them?
Man, so I have to think back. At this point, I think this would have been probably like the middle or spring of 2019. I was on Reddit at that point, like they had the This Dying subreddit, and I had seen somebody that, man, they posted, I don't remember what the dye was, but I remember it was blue, and I'm kind of a fan of blue. Like, I really like blue a lot.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah, and they have like phenomenal blue colors. Like, it's hard to see here, but these, like Caribbean here, or this, dark blue, or Sonic blue over here, like turquoise, like all these, or teal, all these amazing blues. And at the time, I had used the Quick Coat blue, which is a liquid dye, which is it's like hard to work with. Plus, it's acetone based, and acetone and stencils don't get along very well. So I saw somebody, and they just had this like amazing blue. It was like the same color as my jacket, basically. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, this is from like ProChemical and dye. It's just like something. So I went and bought blue and red and like some other colors. This was before they even really had like a disc golf starter set. And then I tried it, and I was like blown away. It was like so much better than iDye Poly. Like, the colors are just so much truer, much easier to work with. I did a lot of hot dips back then, and like, God, the bright blue hot dip is like, just make the disc that's enough for me. Just like bright blue, beautiful. Yeah, so I bought, like, I just kept buying like more and more colors. I have all of them, and I have some that aren't even like, that they don't even sell. So I have all these like, random colors. And then at one point, I had been sending business their way, and I had talked to the ladies at the customer service area a couple of times, and then I got to talking to Mark, who's one of the co-owners. And whenever I guess it was about maybe 2 years ago, whenever I set up, it might have been 3 years. I don't know, math again. I live in like time soup, so who knows how many years or what. Yeah, I talked to Mark, the owner, and was like telling him, we would like to sell this. Like, is this a thing that we can do? And by that point, they didn't realize, wow, like, disc dyers are buying this stuff. What is disc dyeing? And, we opened a dialogue. He asked me a bunch of questions. I answered. I've always been just like totally open with processes and methods and So I was happy to have like a manufacturer that actually like gave a shit about, their customers. And when he saw some of my work, he also saw, if you go look at their website and look at the dyeing section, there's a bunch of artists on there like Greg Renfro, and I think Randy has one on there, and I've got one. There's I think like 9 or so that they have, and they had been working with me for a while. I had already sent them a bunch of business, and Jeff Beatty at Dye Academy had been working with them as well, and we sort of just like partnered up, and they started producing kits for us, and we started selling them, and we've sold a bunch. So yeah, they got interested into it because they saw this new market opportunity, and it was really just like the right place at the right time and the right people, and it was magic.
So I'm assuming you learned a lot more about dye. Is there any interesting facts about the ProChemical and dye that you have?
Let's see. I have one. One is a personal story, and then the other one would be their colors. Like, they have the best assortment of colors that you can get. Like, especially since last year, whenever they added the neon colors, like that was really the one thing that they were missing. Neon plus. Now we have the bold color kit that has like blood red and orchid and all those like really bold, vibrant colors. So the personal side, Mark, I've talked to him like a bunch of times on the phone, and it wasn't until I met him, I was like, wow, you don't look anything like I thought I was talking to this like, business guy, and he's just like tatted up, like wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. Just like totally chill. And was a fantastic dude. Like, it's been really, really great working with him. The other thing I would say with their dye is that they have like probably 30 colors, maybe 20 something, 30
39.
Colors. 39? Yeah. Okay, so they have 39 colors, but they really only have about 10. They do all of their own blending. They do all their own mixing. Like they do, there is, whenever you buy like, a kit from, or a, canister, whatever that you buy for anything from ProChem, there is a person behind that. That's like filling up the bag. That's scooping, they have machines that they, pull a handle, but there's a person that's like doing that. They're like hand labeling the, all the jars. It's like they have such a personal touch with their product, and just like an amazing connection to their customers that like I've been in IT for like 20 something years at this point, and I've dealt with a lot of vendors, and I have never dealt with a company that has been this positive to work with, and like this open to suggestions, and like this, like taking feedback real time, and like feeding it back to you, and coming out with new products, and just like absolutely embracing a market segment that has been just phenomenal to see. Like they are really, like I have never seen anything better than how they do business. So those are my two things about ProChemical and Dye. Love them.
Yeah, I know we chatted before, and they definitely sound like a great company. And go buy some ProChemical and Dye from dyeing.com.
Yeah, got a lot.
Did they share what those 10 colors are that they mix, or what their base color dye is?
They didn't, but I have some ideas. Yeah, because one of the things that I do is like I mix a lot of my own colors. I said I have all of their colors, but some of them I haven't mixed into, like I have a setup that has 50 slots of little, the 2-ounce tubes that I use for lotion dyeing. and I blend a lot of stuff. So, I mix, I'll take like orchid and sonic blue and make like a, blue or dark purple, or put just like a little tiny bit of onyx into blood red and make like this really like a dark blood red, or adding the thing that I'm pretty sure they did, like getting Caribbean, like Caribbean is a little bit of bright blue and it has a little bit of yellow in it, but whenever you add neon lemon zest to Caribbean, you get neon key lime. It's like the same. So the ratios obviously are going to be, different from my mix to their mix. But whenever I started messing around with the colors more, like Sonic Blue and Radical Red together is like orchid, or like a darker orchid. So they, I haven't asked them like what their mix is. I know that they have like a core set of colors, but the way that they do it is like way easier than me doing it. So I'm just like, yeah, you guys keep doing that. It's awesome.
So I remember you talking to me earlier that the dye that you get isn't straight up dye. They add other stuff to it.
Correct.
What is that other stuff?
Well, I don't know. No.
Magic.
I was thinking like unicorn farts, but that's air. That's not like,
they have to condense it down, then dry it out, and get the powder from it.
So there are, they call them carrier agents. That's what Mark told me that they are. And what they do is like they actually deal in pigments. Like they get like raw pigment that they process, and they can turn it into all sorts of different things. Like they can turn it into grease paints, or into like latex paints. They can turn it into like pouring paints, and the powder dyes, and they can have like acid dyes or UV dyes. Like they have all these different products, but really they have like a core set of pigments that they use. And for like the disc dyeing, some of the carrier agents that they use, they keep the dye from like turning into a brick, like clumping up. It also keeps the dye from like the pigments themselves are teeny tiny. It's like super fine powder, like finer than powdered sugar, and they're very reactive, and that means they're also like super staticky. So if they don't have the carrier agents that kind of like the binders and the stuff that keep it together, but not so together that it clumps up, it keeps it from static flying all over the place. So I don't know if any of you have ever worked with like the CS Coatings, the company behind Quick Coat. Like you can actually buy the powder that goes into Quick Coat, but it's like a bitch to work with, because it's just the pigment, and it is like, it gets everywhere, and there's like no stopping it. It's just like, it just like dust in the wind. But you don't really have to worry about that with ProChem. They have everything, kind of nice and packaged and happy, easy to work with. That's what I like.
Have you ever tried experimenting with the raw pigment?
No, I have not had that pleasure yet. So, I have tried like other dyes that have less of it. Like Pilum is one that used to be super popular, like, like back in the late 2000s. That's what a lot of people were using. But that's like industrial pigment, and they really don't want to talk to you, like, unless you're buying enough to dye like an entire like tractor trailer tanker full of something with it. So like they sell it by like the smallest amount of it that you can get is like 10 pounds or something. It's ridiculous. They're not like super keen on working with us either, because why would they sell something by the ounce whenever they can sell it to, Exxon or Chevron to, have them put into their plastics and their chemicals. So yeah, like, but theirs is pretty much like raw pigment. But also then, like, once you have the raw pigment, it's like way harder to work with. And I have some that I think is Pylum that I got from someone. And it's like, it is extremely good, but it gets absolutely everywhere. Like, I cannot stress how just getting it out of the baggie, it's like your hands just turn pink. And it's something. So.
Interesting. Do you know if ProChem has any colors coming out in the near future?
So I actually asked that whenever we were there in September, and there's not really anything on the horizon. I feel like they have a pretty damn good set as it is. Like, as I mentioned earlier, like, the things that they had really been missing was like a really dark, strong red, which they have in both cherry and blood red. And the neons that they have, like the neon lemon zest, the neon key lime, the neon cerise, and neon royal purple is actually cerise plus bright blue. And then I don't remember what other they have. Neon hot orange, which is just fire red plus neon lemon zest, and fire red is like I think it is pinkish red plus dandelion or something. So I don't know. I've mixed a bunch of colors. I just think that. I don't know if that's what they actually are.
I mean, it's interesting how you derive certain colors based on the other colors. And speaking of mixing, how do you mix your colors? Do you mix it in powder form or in whatever medium that you're working with?
That's also a great question, because how do you think I would answer that question? What do you think I do?
Well, I don't know you if you're very scientific, like you bake and you have exact measurements, or you're like cooking and kind of winging it. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think it would be easier to do powder because you can have more exact ratios. Mm-hmm. But you don't know what you're getting until you put it in the medium. But once it's in the medium, you can kind of see what you're getting.
So what I do is I mix all pure colors. So like I've been talking about all these mixes of like the cerise and the neon lemon zest to get the neon hot orange. But what I do is like all of my containers are just one color. Like I have containers of sonic blue, I have containers of fire red, blood red, cherry, onyx. Like I have all of them. I've got like 50 different things mixed up. And I actually do my mixing on the disc. Like I think of things in a process. So as an example, like with this fish guy that I have here, it's orange, right? Mm-hmm. It's like an orangish red color, and then there's yellow, and there's some fire, there's some blue, like there's a dark blue here, and then up at the top it's light blue. So for the fish I did red, and then I went over the top of it with I did fire red first, and then I went over the top of that with dandelion, and then over the top of that with neon lemon zest, and then that gives you this pretty orange color. With the blues, I started at the top of the disc with teal, and then I blended into Caribbean, and then I blended into bright blue, then I blended into Sonic, and then down here I blended into dark blue. So you get the gradients, you get the colors, and by having, like, I know what all of the colors look like by themselves. And on some of my more like geometric patterns that I do, like where I have If you saw the one that I did for Kateri, like the geometric tiger, that has like a bajillion colors on it, I do colors in sets. So I'll do like all of the yellows at one time, and then I'll run over all of those with like, a red, or I have some recovered or whatever. And I just build color through layering. So I start with a pure color, and then I add other colors that I'm like, okay, if I'm doing a rainbow, I don't do, like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I do red, and then I do yellow, and then I do blue. And you get the rainbow by doing those 3 colors. So I work a lot with primaries, and blending. So that's how we do it.
And you use mainly lotion for your medium for coloring?
Yeah. Like this one was mostly done with my lotion fade thing. I have these little spongy paintbrush dealies. And so yeah, lotion plus I do, like, I have the little precision tipped bottles that we sell on the site. I have a bunch of those. And I also do I have little 1 ounce containers that I got off of Amazon, like 1 ounce glass containers with a metal screw top. I will blend, I'll do like a fire red, or a pinkish red, or blood red, and then the yellows. And I have like probably 24 of those little 1 ounce pots mixed up. And then I do like painting with paintbrush. And it's actually a blend of alcohol and acetone. Because alcohol doesn't have enough kick to give you color fast, unless you're, dyeing like, a star or a Castoplast K1 or something. And then the acetone is like too harsh, and then you end up with streaking. And, all this stuff has just come through me doing this a bajillion times. And but primarily my two big mediums are lotion, and then like hand painting for shading stuff.
You could say it's an art form.
Yeah. Weird. It's like art or something. I'm not very artistic.
I find it fascinating that a lot of these dyers don't call themselves artistic. But anyways, I'm curious about your blending on the disc. So you blend with lotion. Mm-hmm. Do you do like one layer at a time? Say you do one color, let it dry, then do another on top? Or do you kind of mix them while they're wet?
So with this particular disc, I'm going to have it as an example. Mm-hmm. I was walking you through the blue and how I started with teal, and then Caribbean, then bright blue, sonic blue, and then dark blue, which is like a blue that they don't even have. I blend wet on the disc, so I'll put just like a little bit of dye, just like some strips across of teal, and then Caribbean, and then bright blue, and sonic blue, and then I use my little fade thing, my little spongy brushes, and then I just like make a nice gradient, and then zap it with the heat gun, and that sets it. So you can actually like literally watch the color take on the disc. So it's pretty cool.
All right, I have more questions about the heat stuff, but for the blending, for say like star plastic, if you lay down a strip of lotion, like a bead of lotion, have you noticed like you see that line or bead of lotion before you start fading it, if that makes any sense?
Yes.
So if it's, yeah.
But that there's a trick that you can use for that. You can use blank lotion as a cover. Like you can put a very, very thin coating of blank on the disc, and then you can add your color over the top, and then you can control. Because I noticed that too. Like especially if in the summer, like here, I don't know if you have it in where are you, like Wisconsin?
Yeah, the Wisconsin.
I don't know if you have it in Wisconsin, but there's this thing that happens in California in the summer. Like the sun comes out and it gets hot. But like it gets really hot in my house. It'll be like fucking 90. And so like I noticed one time I was laying down my dye, and I would, as I started fading, I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm leaving like a line everywhere, because even if it's just sitting there for like a minute, it's already taking, because like heat makes the disc more reactive, which makes it, accept color quicker. So then, just through that FAFO lifestyle, fuck around, find out. I, realized I had been blending in blank lotion to kind of cut some of my colors, like, because I mix them really strong. And then I can dial it back by adding blank lotion into it. And I found out, oh, wow, if I put on this boundary here between the red and the blue, I put all my blue down, but then on where the red is, the red was already here. So I just put literally just like a strip of lotion there from my squeeze bottle, and it won't dye there, because it's like it's too much, like not colored stuff. Yeah. So I was like, that's kind of a neat thing. And then I found out, like, if you change the depth of the layer of blank that you're putting on it, it gives you this really smooth line, like really smooth fades. So but then again, like the process does take, it's hard to tell, but this is like three separate coats of lotion fade to get this blue. So
see, I learned something new every time. And that's fascinating that you found that out, to put like the blank lotion to not get those strips in your super hot, sunny state.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's just something I stumbled on, like when I was, I knew that if I'm cutting color, like I can just add a little tiny dot of whatever color I have, and then add, just blank lotion to it, and it gets like way less saturated. And I was like, I wonder what would happen if I just put this shit onto the disc blank. And apparently it kind of saves you from having those sharp, like a lot of people, like, as I mentioned, I share my methods and stuff. Like, that's been a big thing for me, is, just like sharing the things that I learned, because I said I'm not artistic, and I want to see what actual artists can do with these things that I figured out how to do. Yeah. And it's just been phenomenal to see. But I know when people first start getting into lotion fading, they're like, man, I end up with these like sharp lines, like, between my colors. I'm like, you got to blend in blank into it and fade it out. Like, do multiple coats. Don't do one super dark coat, because you can only go dark once. So start lighter and go darker. So yeah, that's my tip on that.
Do you have, what is like your ratio to dye to medium that you work with? Do you have like a set ratio, or does that depend on what you're doing?
Have you seen the sheet that comes with the ProChemical and dye orders? Yeah, I wrote that. So those are my ratios. I provided it to them, but of course I don't know shit about bed dyes. So all of the detail that came from the bed dyes, that's like, Chris Tanis with the glue bed stuff, or Steve Baranowski with his no-ski dye thing, Jeff Darrow with the Floetrol stuff, Brian with all the lotion gradient stuff, Mike O'Hearn. Like, I mean, there's just like so many amazing people out there that have, given me info that I packaged, and then it's like, here's a starting point. Like, this works for most of the dye colors. Like, some of them behave sort of weird, and some may need more or less, but this will get you going. And that was one of the hardest things for me when I first started dyeing, is like, how the fuck do I do any of this? Like, I mean, it was so much work to go and like find all of the things and all of the dye and all of the materials. And it was like, I'm extremely lazy, and I really didn't like having to do that. And if there's something that I can do, or could do to make it easier for people to get into this, like, why not do it? And like I said, I want to see what actual artists can do with the methods that I've come up with, because, you know, some of them are kind of novel, and I can't fucking draw, or, like, you know, I mean, I can compose stuff, I guess, from existing pictures, but I wanted to see what actual artists could do with this. So that's why, you know, having the Disc Golf Dyers Facebook group and moderating that for a few years now. Like, it was started like, geez, like 6 or 7 years ago, like a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
I've only really been actively involved in that for since 2019, I think, like right before pandemic, or right around pandemic time. Like there, and then, you know, the stuff I learned on Reddit, and just trying to give people easier access to information so that they can do better things than trying to figure shit out. I really don't want people to see this as like some like giant process and like some insurmountable obstacle. I want to make the barrier of entry very low, because if you get more people doing art, you get more art, and I like looking at art. So, you know, just if I can't do it myself, then, you know, I'll let other people know how to do it, and then they can do it. So
yeah, it's great that you're have like an open source mindset to disc dyeing, where, you know, your techniques and methods are willing to share, to see what the other artists do. And the Dyers Guild is to help with providing that information as well. I know there's a plethora of places to get that information. I feel like it's kind of exploded in the past few years. Like when you first started disc dyeing, there was probably little to no information.
Yep. Unless you really knew where to look.
Yeah. So like there's that Facebook group, you know, discdyeing.com, your information, the stuff that you provided, the difference is doing it, Reddit. And I'm just, the Dyers Guild is trying to help play in that part as well, as to make it easy and share as much information as we can from as many dyers as we can. So
yeah. And like
awesome.
we had talked about earlier, you know, I know we're sort of operating in the same space, but like I would much rather work with people than against them. Yeah. Like it's, I mean, this is a big enough space. Like there's enough people out there doing this. There's just like so much opportunity here. It's like, I don't want to compete with you. Yeah. I mean, I like, it doesn't really serve any purpose to me. Like we can exist together, and, you know, it's kind of cliche, but a rising tide does lift all the boats. I guess unless they're made out of cardboard, that might not work so good. Get kind of mushy. But
we'll be like this, not like this.
Yes, exactly.
For the audio listeners, I did stuff with my hands.
Oh yeah, shit! This whole time I'm like talking about this disc, and it's just like I'm showing.
Look at it.
Yeah, and it's a podcast. You can't see what I'm showing you.
Well, you know, there is a video version, but for the audio listeners, you're SOL.
Yeah, I can describe it. It's I think, like, if you look at this, right, this is the origin story of McDonald's in Japan. Yeah, so you have this like fish, and then this samurai guy had to, you know, attack the fish, and then the fish like offered him. He's like, "No, dude, look, I'm like Ronald Fish Donald, and you know, we can coexist. We can do this together." So
Filet-O-Fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
I mean, this is the second time that I've backed myself into a corner with red and fucking yellow, because that's McDonald's colors. It's the second time I've done this, and I know they go together. And every time I'm like, I made a McDonald's disc. So, yeah.
Well, you know, it's called a theory. They look good together.
Yeah, they do.
So you also said you did the alcohol/acetone painting on the disc. When do you use that method?
So two different points, really. Like, if I want to put a lot of color down and I don't want to recover something. Like I used to do a lot of recovering. Like I would cut 2 stencils, do a color, and then put, recover. I have a video, I think, where I did like 1,000 pieces recovering on YouTube. It's extremely boring, but if you want to go watch it, go. It's your business, not mine. I really had been hesitant to use the like paintbrushes and alcohol dyeing or acetone, and just because like I'm terrible, like my handshake, and again the whole like neuropathy thing. But I found like if you have your blends right, like if you have the strength of the dye right, you don't really have to worry so much about like fucking up. So you can put down a lot of color in specific spots with paintbrushes, and you can also build color like through layering really easy. So I have to give a shout out to Tom Potter, because I used to only do hot dips. All my shit was hot dips. All the colors that I did was all hot dips. And Tom and I were like, I mean, he lives in England or whatever, but we were both drunk at the same time online. And he's like, bro, you need to do lotion painting. Like you gotta do it. I'm like, yeah, but it's hard. Like you can get so much color with hot dips. He's like, no, you got to do lotion. And if you've seen what Tom Potter does, like, I mean, he does some fantastic work with lotion. And so I guess at one point I just got tired of dealing with having to do all these recovering and like wasting all this time, and like plus hot dipping, it takes it like co-opts your whole freaking kitchen. And so I just started kind of messing with it. I'm like, damn, he's actually onto something here. So, I wouldn't be doing what I do now if it hadn't been for Tom and Tim Perkins. Tim Perkins showed me the lotion fade method, and Tom like was really adamant about me trying something other than hot dipping with recovering. So good job, guys.
Yeah, you learn something from someone, somewhere, somehow, someday.
Yeah. Yes.
For your stencils, for like the black part, do you still do hot dipping?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Probably like 95% of the time I hot dip. I still feel like you cannot get a smoother, like truer, more saturated color without a hot dip. But in some cases, like if I don't want the cut lines of the stencil to show up, then I will do like, lotion painting in specific areas. Yeah. The tiger disc that I did for Kateri like has a lot of that problem, because I did it in a bunch of layers of color like all across the disc. But whenever you add red and blue and green and yellow and purple, it turns black. So it ends up with all these like little black lines around certain things. So yeah, I do some precision stuff. Like Brian Eckert's really good about doing that with his designs. It'll be a complex design, but he does like precision lotion painting for the black. But for me, pretty much almost always hot dip. This was
and what ProChemical and dye color do you use for your black hot dip?
So I use a mix of it's a mix of Onyx and Dark Dungeon. So Dark Dungeon, fun fact, is actually blue. If you dye, I don't know, like what do people wear? Clothes. If you dye fabric with Dark Dungeon, it's like a really dark blue, like really dark blue, like a dark navy blue. But on a disc, it's black. But the problem is, whenever you, like if you just do that, like when it starts fading out, like you end up with like a bluish black. Onyx, on the other hand, is like just black. Like Onyx in low concentrations is gray, just gray. It's not tilted towards red or blue. It just goes from gray to black. But you have to use like a lot of onyx. Like in a hot dip, normally my ratio is about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half per 16 ounces of water. But with onyx, if you want like black, like super black, you got to use like 2 full teaspoons. And I actually I have never bought more than a 2-ounce jar of dye. Like, I mean, other than, for the business side. But like all of the dyes that I have, the biggest one I have is the 2 ounces. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I conserve the dye for some stupid reason. I like collecting things like, I don't know, I have a bunch of dye, I have a bunch of discs. I don't really waste stuff. So these are all just like in case I need to dye something. I need a disc. But anyway, yeah, like onyx, I just didn't want to use that much. And I was ending up with kind of like a sludge at the bottom of my hot dip. And I reuse it, like I stored in a jar. And it was getting stuck to my pan. Like it was actually sticking to the pan from the heat. So I did, it's got about a teaspoon and a half of onyx and about half a teaspoon of Dark Dungeon in it. So it's still around, like, it's maybe a little less than 2 full teaspoons. But yeah, that's the mix that I use. And it's like a really, really nice black. So, yeah.
I might have to try that mixture sometime. How long do you let the disc sit in that mixture to get the blacks that you're looking for?
You're asking complicated questions there, Dave.
I know, numbers.
There's a whole entire process that happens. You skipped, like, if we were doing a 5Y analysis here, you skipped like way the fuck ahead. Like you're beyond. Like, I preheat my disc.
Okay, well let's go back from the beginning.
Yeah.
Where do you find your images? We won't go that far back. Although I do want to ask that question at some point. So you have your disc weeded and you're about to dip.
Yeah.
What is your process?
All right. So I do all the weeding on the disc, because if you do the weeding off the disc, you're going to regret that at some point. I promise you. Do it on the disc. You're just going to save yourself a lot of heartache. The one that I was talking about earlier that had 9,000 some odd pieces, I fucked that one up on the first transfer and had to redo it. And that was like 40 fucking hours of weeding.
Oh, that so sucks because there's so many pieces.
Yeah. It was rough.
Okay, but before you continue, I want to ask this question.
Okay.
Do you put the vinyl down on top of the disc, or do you put the disc on top of the vinyl when you apply it to the disc?
Disc onto the vinyl. So
okay.
I have a whole process for that. It's actually on our YouTube channel. Like I show how to do it. I have a light board, and I basically draw an X over the transfer tape. I have a jig that goes around the outside edge of the disc, like that's cut into the vinyl, and then I just connect the jig, and then I have the vinyl laying transfer tape side down, sticky side up, and then I get the disc and just put it down on there. And people are like, oh, I can't see through the disc, it's opaque. It's like, fuck, no, like turn the lights off in your fucking house and look at the light box and just put it on there. Like if you do it 300 times, I promise you can get really good at centering. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. Yeah, so a disc onto the vinyl.
Well, that's the wrong way, but anyways, continue.
Yeah, so then put the disc onto the vinyl, flip it over, do your weeding and your stuff, your prep work, get it ready to dip. A lot of people, whenever they go to hot dip, they get their jar and they shake it up, and they dump it in their pan, and turn it on to whatever temperature. Some people like it really, really hot. Some people like it cold, I guess. And those people are wrong, but somewhere in the middle is where you want to be, around 120 degrees somewhere. I don't have a thermometer, so I don't actually know what my temperature is. I know that it's number 4 on my burner. So I have 2 pans. I have a 2-pan process where I have one pan that is just water. And it's in some shitty old pan that I got from like Salvation Army for $1. And that one has water in it. And then the other pan has the dye mix, whatever color I'm doing. The water pan is heated to just below boiling. So there's like little bubbles at the bottom, and it's, kind of, effervescent or whatever the word is for that. And I have that heated up. Then the dye pan's like around 120 or so. And then first, like I place the disc, and I just do it like this. Like I don't have a piece of tape or anything. You will hate yourself eventually if you use tape, because it's gonna fall off and you're gonna mess up a disc. So just learn how to put it down. It's not that hard. Use 2 fingers, plop it down onto the water surface. I float it there on the almost boiling water for maybe 25 to 30 seconds. I keep my hand on the back to like feel how hot the disc is getting. You don't want it like hot enough to where it like burns your fingers. That's way too hot. If you burn your fingers, you're gonna warp the disc. It's not good. So just have my hand sitting on the back of the disc and the back of the plate. Whenever it's warm, I flip it over and I immediately start working the vinyl down into all the little cracks and stuff. Like this stamp actually wasn't too bad. It was one of the West Side, like it had the Halloween stamp, with the I don't know, it was from last year's Halloween, but it had like it and some other weird people on it. But anyway, I press all the edges down of the cut lines. I press everything. Like the vinyl gets really, really, really soft, and it just presses right down into those cracks. So you like seal everything into the, like you're not going to have any bleeds if you do that process. Then I, by that point it's cooled off again. So put it back in there, let it sit again with my hand on the back of the flight plate, kind of have it turning. And then I take it out and immediately put it down, face down into the pan next to it. That's the dye. Whenever you heat the disc first, the disc will soak up dye like a sponge. Like it soaks up a lot of dye really fast. So, on some colors, it only takes about 30 to 45 seconds. Like blood red, you can get like full opaque blood red in like 30 seconds. If you're doing a like 1 teaspoon to 16 ounce mix. I actually mix it a little lower because it's just too fast. Like I can't do it that fast. You can end up with bubbles and other issues. So what I do is I float it on the pan for about a minute. Then I pick it up and shake it off, put it right back down again. That's just to get rid of any bubbles that are on the surface. And then I let it sit for that's also a color check. Like I see how quickly the color's taking, and depending on how it looks, I'll let it float for usually not longer than 3.5 minutes, and then take the disc out. I do a wash process with Dawn soap, cold water, rub it all real good with your hand, rinse it with cold water, then back into the hot water pan, and then heat it up again till it's hot to the touch, then back into the other pan, and then for another, depending on how the first 3 minutes went, it'll be 3 to 5 minutes that'll do, like on the second dip. And then usually, like on this guy, this only was 7 minutes of total dip time to get like black. And then once you're done with your color set, just turn the stove off and do your wash process again with the Dawn and the cold water. And then the trick is to keep the disc color safe. Like if you're going to run other colors over it, like the dye will be in all these little cracks, like all the little spaces. It gets stuck to the adhesive, like that's exposed on the edge of the vinyl. And a little dye goes a long, long way, especially if you're painting with acetone or with alcohol. So to make my disc color safe for the next process that I'm running on it, it goes back into the hot water pan, and then like you can actually see like dye will dump out of the disc. Like it comes out of especially out of the vinyl. Like the vinyl is really porous. The disc not so much, but the vinyl is what screws you. So I float it on the pan, and then I like pour isopropyl alcohol on it, and if it runs clear, you're good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then you need another wash cycle. Usually it only takes 2 wash cycles to do that. But then the whole process takes about the same amount of time as if you were to just put the disc on there for 20 minutes and walk away and back. But it's more intensive, like, and this is from me learning over the course of 5 years. Like, this process works every single time, like without fail. You get good color, you have color safe to where you can run other processes over it. And also, since you're dumping the dye out of it, like, there's not extra active dye that's like, stuck to the surface of the disc. And I've personally found that they actually hold their shape longer. Like, the color is always going to fade, but you have the movement laterally through the disc, and you have less lateral movement with this process. So the fade happens, but you don't get the blur.
Interesting concept. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just for,
it makes sense.
You can see this. See how crisp that is? I dyed this in October.
Yeah.
And it's still like nice and sharp. So, I just added the color like over the past week, but the black hot dip, like I did this in October, and then I was like, oh, I'll do it during, Thanksgiving. And then that didn't happen. I was like, well, maybe in Christmas. Then I drove to fucking Texas, and so I didn't do that. And I was like, you know what? I got this Dyers Guild thing coming up. I have to do this disc anyway. I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna do it.
Glad I gave you motivation.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like the extra dye between the crevice of the vinyl and the disc on the edges, if that excess is there, that causes the more lateral movement. But with your process, it basically everything is even and there's no extra buildup in the edges, I guess. As little as that may be. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's really there is, and it's a mistake that I used to make a lot when I first started dyeing, and it's a thing that I still see like new dyers doing, especially with hot dips, is they'll leave it for like a long time, like 20 minutes in the dye, or 30 minutes, like these ridiculous times. Like I'm doing 3 to 6 minutes, and they're doing like 30. There's numbers that tell you how much more that is. I don't know them, but yeah, like you're putting dye into the plastic. I mean, duh, but really you're putting like way more than you actually need in there. And it's especially true on like Casoplast K1 or G Star is also like particularly bad about it. You can get absolutely beautiful, crisp, like, super opaque blacks. But that plastic is so, like, the polymer chains are really, like, loose. And the dye is very active, and it will just move down those chains. And the less dye that you have in it, the less likely it is to go sideways. So if you're like hot dipping a Casoplast disc for like 30 minutes, you're going to end up with like in 3 months you're going to have a big black smear. Like it moves so far sideways through the disc. So I really kind of try to minimize the amount of dye that I'm actually getting into the disc. Like I really just try to use as much as it needs, and that's kind of a hard thing to find out without, you know, just doing it a whole lot of times.
Yeah. Man, again, very interesting stuff because, you know, the depth of the dye increases the blurriness.
Yeah.
Science. Polymer chains. She's got some big polymer chains.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I gotta say, Dave, like I'm glad that you're doing this thing and that people actually listen to this like crazy like nerd.
No one's gonna listen to your podcast, so just say whatever you want.
Man, yeah. It's fun. Like,
yeah.
I like talking about dyeing. I like doing it. I like interacting with the community. I really liked whenever, you know, I taught some classes for Dye Academy. That was a lot of fun. I like going to events. You know, there's only like my wife who, you know, I can't like, I never shut up about dyeing with her, but, you know, I have a buddy, my friend Kevin here in the Bay Area. He's like, the like ride or die kind of guy. And, you know, he also is like super into the art and the science behind it. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoy, you know, nerding out with him. So, yeah.
Yes. Once a nerd, always a nerd.
Yeah.
Why do you do the boiling water method versus like a heat gun to seal the vinyl?
So, it's a great question. You're good at asking good questions. It's almost like you've done this before.
I'm just making shit up.
Yeah. So, the reason that I do that is because you evenly heat the entire surface of the disc, and you're evenly heating the vinyl. And I don't know if you've used the heat gun much, mm-hmm. like, especially if you're like, when you're, you know, peeling vinyl off, like after you do a hot dip, the vinyl can tend to get kind of like stiff and then it'll leave adhesive behind. So I like to, you know, use a heat gun and make it come off easier. But you'll notice that whenever you, like if you half peel some vinyl, say like I pulled this dude's foot off of this covered area here, and I hit it with a heat gun, it gets all like squirrely, like the vinyl, it shifts because it has like different temperatures and it moves around. Mm-hmm. So what you end up with is you have like, because I tried a heat gun first, like that was my initial thing. It's like, mm-hmm. you know, heat gun. Because Tiffany Shaw had recommended that whenever, you know, like forever ago. She was like, oh, you can just burnish the edges and, you know, use a heat gun and it like seals it. And you end up with uneven heating across the disc, and you might have like certain areas that you miss where, you know, you didn't get it pressed down or it didn't get hot enough, and like it's just not as good. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I'm already going to be doing this like preheating method, it's just, you know, like an extra benefit. Like I can use it to like fully seal, where I know, like, there's nothing really worse than spending a shit ton of time weeding a disc. And like on mine, you know, some of them that I do might take, you know, 12 hours of weeding to do. And it's fucking terrible whenever you like weed something with 7,000 pieces on it and then you get a fucking bleed because of fucking stamp. Like, you know how aggravating that is? That's like the worst. So fuck stamps, A. And B, like, I really don't like screwing up on something that is so like fundamentally easy to fix. Mm-hmm. So if I have a process that works, that I know that the hot water float, and, you know, like really working the vinyl into the cracks, like I know it works, and I'm going to do the thing that works because it works. Like I don't want to waste time. Like I don't I don't have that much time to dye anymore. Like now that, post COVID, having to drive, to and from work again, and like being in the office, and then plus, like, life still happens. Like for a while there with COVID, it's everything sort of just stopped, and you have like all this time to, just go fucking crazy in your head. And, but now there's just shit happening. So, I don't want to get into a situation where I like put a lot of work and time, like prepping it for a hot dip, and then it bleeds. Like, I'll do everything to avoid that. So, yeah.
That makes sense. Have you noticed any adverse effects with dipping it in water, then into the dye? Like, does the water, I don't know, create any masks or bubbles before you put it in the dye? Do you like... do you dry the disc off after you do? Okay.
Nope. So what I used to do before doing the dip and then immediately put it into the hot float, or so, like, the float on hot water and then immediately into the hot dip float. I used to, if the disc is dry and you have like an area of the stencil where you end up with a point, that it'll create an air pocket and you end up with bubbles. So what I used to do is I would spray it down with, I have like a travel perfume bottle thing, little 3-ounce bottle, Mr. bottle. I used to spray it down with isopropyl alcohol, the whole thing, and just get it, like moist. And then, that's a fun word, moist. Moist. And then, put it down onto the hot float, and that kind of prevented bubbles for me back then. But then I noticed whenever, preheating it and taking it straight out, I mean, literally the pans are right next to each other. Take it straight out of the hot water pan, put it into the hot dye pan. The surface of the disc is like fully wet, and the only way that you're going to capture a bubble in any of these little like crack areas or areas that, sort of make a canyon type thing that can trap air, they're already full of water. So, one thing I do still do is right before I take the disc out of the hot water float, is I spray my dye pan down with that Mr. bottle of alcohol, and it breaks the surface tension, and you end up with just like, it's like liquid, because it'll get like a film on top of it. If you've ever seen that, you spray it with the alcohol, it breaks up all that film, and then you put a wet disc into it, and it's like instantly, like all the bubbles, just, if there are any, they just go to the edge, because you can't really get in there because there's no like dry space for them to stick to.
Yes.
So, yeah, all of this like crazy shit that I do to get, it's like, it sounds like, well, that sounds like dyeing with extra steps. Well, yeah, but I mean, it works. It works every time. And like I said, I don't really have time to fuck up. So, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it right the first time. So,
yeah. And there's a lot of science behind all that too, because when you hot float it, there's water on it, which already broke the surface tension of any dry spots. Then you also do that mist of the alcohol, which also breaks the surface tension. So, yeah. Science.
Yeah. Surfactants. They're great.
Yes. Fantastic. So, for your stencils, few questions on that. We'll go back to the very, very beginning. Where do you find your imagery for these stencils? And or do you modify / create your own?
I try not to steal anything. Like, that's the most common thing that dyers do when they first start, is they just steal everything. And I did it. I mean, I was guilty of it. Nowadays, I used to spend a lot of time on Instagram, like, looking at other art and artists and stuff, and I would try to do collabs. Like, I would ask, hey, can I use this? You may have seen that wolf one that I did, the running wolf that has like the eyeballs that are like spinning around, and it's a phenakistoscope one. that was done by Drew Tetz on Instagram, and I reached out to him, and this was years ago. I reached out to him and was like, "Hey man, do you mind if I like?" Because he was making slip mats, like slip mats for DJing stuff. I guess I don't know. I'm not a slip mat guy, but I asked him if I could put it on a disc, and I kind of showed him what disc tying was and some of the other stuff that I had done. And he was like, honestly, this was done by some dude in Japan. Like, I don't know, I can't even talk to him. So, I do try to give artists like, the either credit for the art or buy it from them. This one, I'm not sure. It's like it's a traditional Japanese tattoo style. And it looks like, the image that I found for it looked like it came out of like some book from ancient wherever. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can find an artist. I looked around. I can't find any examples of this other than the one image that I found. But I do I'll reach out to the artist, or I will go to like Adobe Stock. Their stock image site has fantastic, like they have so many things, just like literally millions of images. And, your second question about like, do I find a stencil that's like, ready to go, or do I, make one from multiple parts? And, it depends on what it is. A lot of the stuff that I do requires some amount of, like composing, where, I'll do, masking of like certain parts and then crop this here and then add this here. I had one that I had done for Chris Kearns on the Discraft collector page. He's like super popular on there. Has a whole bunch of Discraft stuff, and it was an astronaut, like an astronaut lady that was like looking out of a window, and I found that original image on Adobe Stock, and I bought it to use as the regular license thing. So I bought it on Adobe Stock, and then the problem was like the actual image, she was just looking at some like fucking guy like out on the moon. It was like super boring. So out of the window, I chopped everything that was in the original picture, and I found like this 80s vibe, like triangular mountain range thing, that it was just like, some vaporwave aesthetic type thing. And I put that in there. And then I found I Googled like Space City, and I found some sketch from some book from forever ago of like this futuristic thing that was, drawn in like the 50s. And then I put that on top, and then, just blend them all together and compose it. And, I do a lot of pre-work on my stencils. Like almost never do I get a stencil and just be like, boom, click, print. The one example of that recently that I've done is the samurai that was like the blood splatter that I had done in like blood red. I did it on a white jade, I think. And that one was just like ready to go because I bought a vector and everything was fine. I just send and then it goes, and it was nice. And I just did blood red and it was like easy peasy. But generally speaking, I do a lot of pre-work on the stencils, and either initially working in Adobe Illustrator, or just doing everything in Silhouette Studio, depending on what it is. But all of my final work is done in Silhouette Studio. Like all of the final composure is done in Silhouette Studio. There's things that it can do that Illustrator can't, if you can believe that.
Honestly, I can't.
You tell me, how do I I've had this argument with Kateri where there's a picture of like fucking flowers or something, just like a bouquet of flowers, right? And you're looking at it in Illustrator, and I only give a shit about the black lines that I can see.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, if you grab a flower, it's like behind all the other flowers. So all the extra cut lines like exist.
Mm-hmm.
I only want the piece I can see. That's all I care about, because that's what I want to cut. But if you send that to Silhouette Studio, it's like, oh, I'm going to cut all this shit you can't see because it's there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I have to, like, through different masking or cropping, you can kind of do all of that in Silhouette. And like I said at the very beginning, I like brute force learned like Silhouette over the course of like 6 months while I was sitting on my fucking couch with a broken leg. So I'm pretty okay at Silhouette Studio.
I've never used it before, so I can't comment on that. But I don't blame you for not knowing Illustrator since you're not a graphic designer like me. So
yeah, not a graphic designer.
That's fine.
I have asked Kateri that question. I'm like, how do I want to I only want the thing I can see. Dave, how do I get only what I can see? That's all I care about. I don't give a shit about anything behind it. I only care about
we'll put a pin in this and we'll talk at a later date.
See, that's because it doesn't exist. We're just avoiding the question.
What settings do you use for cutting your vinyl on the Silhouette?
That is a trick question. So I only use Oracal 651 gloss white, like every time. I have used damn near every color that they make. I've used 631. I've used like the Silhouette vinyl, the permanent and non-permanent, or permanent and removable. I've used Cricut vinyl. I just like the consistency of the gloss white, like the way that you can work with it during the summertime, especially because, like I said, we get heat here, and it just handles the temperature variation better. Because like in a winter, it gets cold as fuck. Like it's got to be like 55 degrees outside right now. It's miserable. And like inside my house, it's like super cold right now. It's probably like 65. It's like, I don't understand, how I'm even alive right now.
You're just roughing it, man.
Well, but seriously though, the gloss white, like it is the most consistent in like thickness and the stretchiness. Like there's a word for stretchiness, but I don't actually. Elasticity. Yes. So I just like working with it. Like the elasticity is good. It's just it works across a wide range of temperatures. I used to really like the 651 transparent, but I found that in the wintertime, it's like really hard. Like it's a little bit thicker than the gloss white. And it's harder. It's just a little bit harder to work with. And plus, when you're doing a stencil that has like, thousands of pieces on it, you can't fucking see it. It's transparent.
Yes.
So yeah, I like gloss white. I use gloss white 651. I use exclusively the Vinylese medium tack paper transfer tape. I just really like working with it. It works really well for my methods. And then I use NiCappa cutting mats, which you can get on Amazon. They make them for Cricut too, for any Cricut users out there. And I do usually 1 or 2 on depth, and then usually 8 to 10 on speed. And then, it's 1, 10, 5. So I don't remember which one is speed. One is speed and the other is pressure in Silhouette. But I usually use 1, 10, 4 or 1, 9, 5. And it depends on your blade. Like all the blades are going to be different. You're going to have to kind of fuck around and find out. But But like 110.5 like is the default for glossy vinyl. Usually that's fine for any simple stencil. For my more complex ones or ones that have a lot of interlocking pieces, I usually do like 184, and that seems to work.
I really wish the Cricut had a speed setting because there's only pressure settings.
Yeah, see, I really wish. Actually, I don't care about Cricut at all. Cricut can fuck off. They can go where stamps live for all I care.
And just
okay. Well, hold on. That's harsh. Like, the cutter itself is actually quite good. Like, it does almost everything that I would ever want to do. The problem is the software. Like, Cricut Design Space, like, I feel like that's a crime against humanity. Honestly, it's terrible. Like, have they never used software? Like, what the fuck? Seriously, it's bad. It's real bad.
The only thing that I use is
you have to design outside of Cricut and bring it in. So unless you're like some super genius like you that knows how to use fucking Illustrator, like, yeah, I can't do the Cricut thing because the software's bad. And I'm bad at using
again, the software thing, all I use it for is create image, bring it in, cut.
Yeah. See, I didn't have that luxury when I first started because I didn't want to drop like, $20 a month or whatever on Illustrator. And I actually test drove both software because both the Cricut Design Space and Silhouette Studio are free. They're freeware. You can get paid versions of both, I think. The paid version of Silhouette Studio will let you open SVG files for the first one, like the design edition, and it also gives you a couple of different tools. The business version gives you the ability to save as SVG. So like I can create stencils for Cricut users and send them an SVG file. It also gives you a multiple undo, which is like the same tool that Illustrator has where you can see your list of actions. And you can go backwards like to a specific action and undo everything that you did. But I messed around with both software suites because, again, I have a broken leg, didn't have anything else to do. Yeah. And like, I kind of felt like Cricut Design Space was worse than breaking my leg.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But
so did you mess around with the software before you bought the machine?
I did for both.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause again, like, if you do something right the first time, then you don't have to keep fucking with it. And I'm lazy, so
you're not lazy, you're smart.
Sure, we'll go with that. But yeah,
you don't want to waste your energy.
At the time, it's like the cutters are a few $100, and it's like I don't really, I don't know how what kind of staying power this is gonna have for me, because I've done a bunch of things. I did a bunch of car stuff, like blew a bunch of money on cars. And then I sort of was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So got out of that. And I was like, I don't know if I want to spend a bunch of money on like disc dyeing stuff. It turns out I guess I did, because I've done this way longer than I've done car stuff. So,
what made you stick around with the disc dyeing stuff?
I can't get away from disc golf. I just can't. Nothing like... Even whenever I was going through chemo treatments, I would try to, I'd get out and play, 2 or 3 holes, and then just like hang out. Like, I've met some of the best people in the world playing disc golf. Like, seriously, like lifetime friends meeting through disc golf. Like, the disc golf community is just like, any community has shitbirds in it, but disc golf people, for the most part, are super chill. Like anywhere that I have gone, at least in the U.S., which is the only place that I played disc golf so far, it's always like the same vibe. Everybody's just having fun, chucking plastic things at trees and getting pissed off about it. But it's I don't know. It's just a great community, and I like being a part of it. I've met amazing people. I've gone to amazing places, done amazing things. Like, I just can't get away from it. So whenever my leg was broken and I couldn't do that, this was the closest that I could get to it. So that's what I did.
That is amazing. Where do you want to grow your disc dyeing career / talents? Is there anything that you want to improve upon or experiment or do differently?
Do you mean on the business side or on the actual art side? Or both?
Both. I guess is more directed for the art side, but it could definitely include the business as well.
So I'll answer the art question first. Like, I would really like to get better at hand painting. Like, at this point, I feel that I can do the most complex stencil, and this is a call out to anybody. I can do the most complex stencil that there fucking is. Like, period. You will not beat me on that. But I'm bad at art. Like, I'm bad at hand painting. Like, the stuff that I see Greg Renfro and Randy Drennan and Gary Upham and like Bill Hammond and Ryan Smales, like those guys, I can't fathom doing that. Like, I really, really wish that I didn't have to use this complex software and like these complex tools to do this complex thing on a disc. I wish I could just do it the way that they do it. I mean, sure, I've watched Greg like in person do it, and I don't fucking understand it. Like, I've seen him do it, and I'm just like, what? Like, how did you know that? I wish I could be better at actually doing art and drawing. That's what I want on that side. I still like messing with colors, and I still like, I enjoy doing this. But I wish I could just take the things in my head and put them onto the disc without having to go through software. On the business side, I would like to continue to grow, to give others an opportunity to share their art with people, whether those people are just followers or whether they're customers. That's what I want to do. Like, if I can provide them with the tools and the methods to do that, I feel like I'm doing something, like, my big thing is with, openly sharing information on some of my processes. And like, when I first got into disc dyeing, it was really hard to find certain methods. Like, people were there. I'm not going to call anybody out on people that were not, giving their methods out, because these people were doing it as a business. And I totally understand that. And I can appreciate that. But from my standpoint, I was just really frustrated that it's like, this isn't necessarily difficult to do. Like, putting this art onto a disc isn't necessarily hard if you follow the process, if you have the right tools, if you like. I mean, I could tell you, even with these areas here, like, this was my first time doing glue masking with using my methods, and like, the only reason I did that is because Gary showed me a picture just like a couple of days ago. He showed me a picture of how he does his fucking clouds that piss me off because they're so beautiful. Like, and I was like, oh, that's it? Like, shit, that's not hard. And then I did this, and I did an okay job. I mean, it's not as good as he probably would have, but it's like, I just didn't like the fact that it was just so discouraging to like try to get into something and try to learn something, and everybody's holding all of this information like so tight to their chest, and it kind of can lead to stagnation. Like, you saw a lot of the same things over and over and over again. You saw a lot of the same styles over and over and over again. You didn't see like doing the like Floetrol cell style as an example. That's been around for a while now. But the twist that Mike O'Hearn did of doing the like structured cells, where he makes like, scales out of them, or like, you know, a corn cob type design, like rainbow corn. You know, that is because he had the ability to like know, okay, here's the basics, here's how this shit works. And then he had an idea of like, I wonder what would happen if I, you know, if I did this, if I put it on this thing and like did a, you know, a structure in it. And then he shared that, like he did a video on how to, you know, how to actually do that process. And then now you see people that have taken it and they're doing like these twisty ones and they're doing like, you know, drags through it. And like, I feel that this art form has come so far just in the 5 years that I've been a part of it. And anything that I can do to help continue doing that is what I want to do, like on the business side. Sure, there's the fact that like I sell things and get money from selling it, but I truly enjoy like seeing the stuff that people create. Like there's very few things that are better than, you know, having a site set up and getting an email as an admin where someone's like, you know, they tell their story of, they're like, hey, you know, like I've been disabled. I've just been doing this art form as like a side gig. Like I never knew that I could like set up a site and like have sales and like people would actually buy my stuff. It's like, I'm providing an opportunity for people to make their lives a little bit better. So, you know, I enjoy that. Plus, like taking Chris Tanis on as a full partner in the business, and having him just like run all of the shipping and receiving and all of the vendor management and, you know, like doing all of our advertising and everything, like that has just been huge. And like having him just as like, you know, he quit his job to do this. Like, how fucking crazy is that? Like, and it's been like a year now almost that he's been working for disclang.com. And he still has Daddy Mac Dyes, but, you know, I'm just like, I'm just shocked. I never thought we would have got to this point. So, you know, helping people make cool shit and make their life just a little better is my goal.
That is a great goal. If you would have to give any tips or tricks for disc dyeing or any disc dyeing related thing to either beginners or seasoned veterans out there, what would you give or tell them?
Don't be afraid to try something. Like, don't worry about screwing up. Like, sure, I made a whole rant about, like, you know, screwing up with a bleed or whatever, but that's a process issue. But, like, try mixing colors, try different styles, try different methods, try, you know, like, just try different things. Like, push the envelope, watch it bend, see where it goes, you know? Swing on the spiral, the whole fucking thing. That's what I would suggest. Like, don't... Tim Perkins is a really good example of this. Like he does spin dyes and glue masks, and he constantly sends me stuff. It's like he does spin dyes and glue masks, and they're every time they're so fucking different. Like, and he does so many discs. This is like, oh my god, come on, Tim, you do so many, and it's just I just love seeing the creativity of something that's really just such a simple method, just pushed to the nth degree. And, you know, people should just not be afraid of trying. Don't be afraid of failing. Like, if you need discs, I got some. You know, we can get you more. If you need dye, actually I don't have any, but you know, I do on the website. We have dye, but you know, just don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to fuck something up. Like, I mean, maybe not with the commission, but you know, just like share what we have. Like, try something new. Do it. See what happens. And then, like, let's just all fucking grow this thing together. It's going to be awesome. It has been awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see in the future what stuff that we're actually going to see.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like, I don't know if you saw Ragai Dai's like Yoda one that he did.
That was crazy.
Man, I hate that he's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel bad because like even this like the stuff that all these new people are coming into the Facebook Dyers page, and they're just posting just fire, just like absolute fire. And I just love it. They're so far past me, like things that I can't do. And I love it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm so jealous, but my God, it's just like I really, really like the art a lot. I just love the way that our community is, like with sharing and man, I just love everything about it. Except stamps.
Yes. Fuck stamps.
Yes.
I mean, have you ever dyed a disc with a stamp?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did a glue bed for my wife. She has an AGL locust in there. I think it's like alpine lichen plastic, where it's like they're opaque, but it has like the little bits of like fuzz. It looks like lichen in it. I think it's alpine lichen, and it has the AGL, just the standard AGL stamp. And I just did like a simple like swirly glue bed on it, but I kept the stamp and I covered it and I cut out the AG and L, so that's the same, that's discolored, and then all the rest is dyed. So yeah, I have dyed some that have stamps. My bag only has like 6 dye discs in it. All the rest are like, they have stamps. But don't tell anybody I said that.
I honestly don't have any dyed disc in my bag that I throw.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I have some. A couple that I did. And then I have one from Mad Hatter, David Zigretta, who did a really cool, like, he does geometric stuff plus pores, like feather pores. I have a T-Bird 3 that he did, still in the bag. I have a rainbow spiral that was done by Brian Eckert. I have one of Chris's Daddy Mac, like streaked glue beds. I have one of Steve Baranowski's swirly rainbow spirally thingies. And Jeff Darrow did a Secret Santa disc for me last year, or like not this past Christmas, the one prior, that has his like, signature rainbow cells on it, on like some lips that are dripping. It's pretty cool. And then most of the rest are undyed. I do have like a bunch of other dye discs from other dyers, like Bill Hammond did at Gingivitis. Like he sent me like my face like on a disc. It's hilarious. Like I love it because it's and it's seriously, Bill, it's like on my mantle. Like it's the thing that you see when you walk into my living room. So.
Someone walks in, they're like, "The hell is that?"
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and I have one from Melanie at We Die You Fly, and I got one from Tim the Tin Man in Canada because he fucking beat me at my own game, and did a really awesome HR Geiger disc. It was better than mine, honestly, but I tried. But yeah, I like getting other people's art. I like looking at art. I like going on the forum and helping people. Yeah, there's not a lot to not like. The thing I don't like, the thing that it just takes time, and I don't have a lot of that anymore. So I try to maximize it when I can.
So let me ask you this question. Would you rather never be able to wipe stamps or never play disc golf?
I have to drink about that one.
Ooh, wow. That tough and interesting.
Well, see, so, man, damn, that's a hard one. Because the problem is, like, my knee is fucked. Like, seriously, I had to like rebuild it with cadaver bones. I don't have any like cartilage in it other than this like bits that are just floating around. So really, if I do like 2 rounds in a day, I can't walk the next day. Like it's bad. So I have to get like a knee replacement at some point. But the problem is like fucking like robot knees only last like 10 or 15 years or whatever. And I'm like, what, 42? So, am I really going to have to get like 7 more knees before I die? Like, there's math somewhere there. I know,
yeah,
but,
I don't know if that's right, but you know,
man, that's a tough one because it's like I really like playing disc golf. Can I still go to the course and like hang out with people and like do stuff, or can I have nothing to do with it other than dying?
Well, now you have to make me think about it. Yes, you just cannot play.
I'd be fine like being like a club officer and just helping at courses and stuff. Like there's they both fill different spaces in life, right? Like playing is fun, like going and hanging out with people and being social and like getting exercise and smashing fucking sick aces in Tahoe. That's dope as hell. Don't get me wrong. But like the art is a thing where I can use creativity, or I can take like, frustrations out and just like throw them into a process. It's really like cathartic, I guess, to do that. So really dying and playing occupy 2 totally different parts of my mind. They fill different voids. And I don't know which of those is more important. I think that's the best answer I can give.
Well, that was a bit more heavier than I was expecting, but a good, interesting, thoughtful.
Hey man, it makes for a good podcast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. All right. Is there any other dying specific topics that you would like to talk about? If not, we'll move on to get to know you on a more personal level.
So, I already said the thing, don't worry about fucking up. Like, you're going to mess up. I mess up. I messed this one up because you can see if I do this, see how it's like real dark in these areas? That's because my blood red and my cherry look the same in the fucking jars that I was using. But, I can work with this. I can still save it. And plus the rest of this is actually super fun. But anyway, I already said that. Number 2 is you have to use heat if you're doing flow-troll beds. Don't ask about, well, can I just let it sit for 30? No, you can't. You got to use heat. You have to use heat for flow-troll. That's how it works. Like, just get a fucking heat lamp if you're going to do flow-troll beds. Don't put your discs in an oven. Do not use your oven. If you're like, oh yeah, but I'm gonna put this, I don't have a heat lamp. No, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your disc in there, and then you're gonna fucking smoke a blunt, and you're gonna forget and heat up the oven for pizza, and you're gonna melt your disc. So don't do that. Let's see, what else not to do? Don't look at all of the things that you see and think you can't do it. Don't think, man, all these people are so much better than me. Because I started out with hand-cut garbage, and now I can do machine-cut garbage. So don't limit yourself. Don't come into it and think, I can't do this because y'all are so good. Just try. Like, go mess stuff up. Just try it. It's fun. Just do it. Yeah, that's my answer.
So mess up a lot of discs so you can buy some more at thisdying.com and also get your dye there.
Yes. Yeah, we just got a whole new shipment of Innova ones that have our logo. Easy to wipe.
Okay, I saw that. I'm like, you hate stamps, but you put a stamp on them.
Yeah, they're easy to wipe. It's like they're not like super embossed in it. I mean, they just come right off with the foils. So yeah, that was one thing I was worried about too. But our design, it like seriously, it comes right off.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but go buy stuff from our website so Chris can heat his house with oil. Apparently, that's what people use up there.
Right on. All right, so we're going to get to know Keith on more of a personal level if we already haven't already. So the first section that I have is your favorite fave. What is your favorite band or song?
Well, I would have to say that all-time favorite is Tool. Like, there was like a lot of shit going on in my life, and they filled a really nice spot in my childhood and, you know, like formative years, whatever you want to call it. They're also the band that I've seen the most in concert by like a lot. I've seen them like, I don't know, half a dozen times, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but I never go to concerts. I never do anything except play disc golf. So, you know, that would have to be my all-time favorite band. And I can't pick like one song because I would probably have to say that Enema or Lateralis, probably Lateralis, is where I would just pick that album, like consume it as one unit. Mm-hmm. Like that's like a complete everything for me. Weirdly, I don't actually listen to Tool that much anymore. Like if I hear a Tool song, I can't not listen to it, right? But I've been listening to a lot of like electronic stuff, like Adam Friedland. I listen to a lot of like Fantagram, like they're, I don't know, people. Like, I don't know, a lot of like no-name random shit that comes up on like Pandora chill stations. Yeah, I just, music doesn't really play a huge part in my life. Like if I were to ask you, say you're going to drive 30 fucking hours from California to Texas, what are you going to listen to?
Well, it's going to be literally everything.
Yeah, I'm probably not even going to have the radio on.
Yeah. Okay, I do agree with that because sometimes I'm driving and I don't listen to music. I just kind of zone out and think to myself.
Yeah. Although this last time when we went for Christmas, we listened to 3 audiobooks on the way there and back. So that was kind of cool. That's a good way to fill time.
It is, but I'm also scared that I'm paying attention to the audiobooks and I arrive at my destination and I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah, that's fine. That happens.
Yeah.
You got there in one piece. That's how.
Yes. But yeah. Anywho, what is your favorite food?
Okay. I'm going to pick 2 things because one of them is a meal, or at least a main, I guess. And the other one is like an after dinner thing. So favorite food is my stepdad's mom's rouladen. Like, I don't know if you've ever had rouladen, but it's like it's a German dish, and they get this like basically kind of like a flank steak sort of thing. And they like hammer it really thin, and you put like pickles and mustard and some other, I don't know, German shit in there, and you roll it up, and then you boil that fucker in gravy, and it's amazing. Like, oh my god, it's like, yeah. If I had to pick one thing, like, they're like, well, you're gonna die tomorrow. Like, what are you gonna pick? And I'm like, well, I'd like to have that rouladen. Rouladen would be amazing. If not that, like a really good, like semi-sweet dark chocolate. Like, I love chocolate, and there's a reason behind chocolate. Like, chocolate when I was going through chemo was the only thing that tasted like it was supposed to.
Interesting. Everything
else was like fucked up in some way, shape, or form. It tasted like bizarre because the one of the chemicals that they pump you full of when you're doing the ABBD treatment for lymphoma is it kills all of your fast growing cells. So like your what do you call the things on your tongue that
tasty buds?
Taste buds kills all of those. It makes your hair all fall out. Even in your ass crack, it falls out, and then when it grows back, it's like the itchiest fucking thing ever. Again, don't recommend chemo. Don't recommend cancer. Hard no, hard pass. But yeah, like during that like really shitty time of my life, like everything tasted bad, and I really like food. I'm a big fat fuck, and I know that. I love food, but I hated it when I was doing chemo. Like everything sucked, and plus, you're like puking all the time. It's just like there's no fun really to be had. But chocolate was like really any kind of chocolate. It just tasted like chocolate. So in a point in my life when everything was like completely wrong and completely off, chocolate wasn't. So that's why I picked chocolate.
There you go. And also very interesting.
I don't know. There's probably science behind it. Yeah. But yeah.
What is your favorite beverage?
Man, do I have to tell you what kind of beer, or can I just like beer?
Beer is fine.
Yeah, man, I like beer. I also really like whiskey, and I like bourbon. Like if I had to, if I had to just pick something again, like the best drink that I've ever had was like a Yamazaki 25. Like when I was in Japan a few years ago for my buddy Keith's, who also was named Keith, for his 40th birthday, we got to do like a distillery tour at the Yamazaki distillery. And they have a tasting library where you can taste like all of their old stuff, like, shit that if you were to get it here, I mean, we're looking at like probably like a $5,000 to $10,000 bottle, like crazy expensive. But yeah, they had Hibiki and Yamazaki, like both over. I think one was a 25 and the other one was maybe a 28. But my God, it tasted like both of them were fucking stellar. So whiskey or beer? I don't know. It's like, do I want like a $50 pour of like, really nice Japanese whiskey, or a Coors Light?
Yeah.
Tough choice.
Why not both?
Yeah.
So besides the disc golf and disc dyeing and the discdyeing.com website, what other hobbies do you have? Or used to have?
Do I have hobbies other than that? I mean, my wife, Lisa, I love her with like every ounce of my being, because she puts up with all of my stupid shit that I do. She's, put up with me through cancer and like broken legs and just like a bunch of stuff. Like she plays disc golf too. Like she plays like more than me because she gets, she's a teacher. She gets like a bunch of time off, and she'll go play with all of my friends at work. But I guess I would say travel, which like kind of sucked because during COVID we didn't fucking go anywhere. But like we've been, I used to travel a lot for work, so I've been to like Philippines, Malaysia, Taiwan, Japan, France, like all over the US, Mexico, Canada. I really like going places in, experiencing the local food and like, what kind of like trash beer do you have? Like, what is your shit beer? Like, what's your Coors Light? That's what I want to know. So, I just like seeing the things that people eat and the things that they drink, just like normally. So I really like traveling. And now that, everything's kind of normalized at this point, we're doing a little bit more of that. We haven't gone international yet, but, we've been back to Texas a few times and spent extended periods of time there. Love going to San Diego, like love going to Portland. My buddy Jeremy that taught me how to dye, like he just moved to Spokane a little while ago. So like we're hoping to get up there and check out Spokane. Yeah, like I'm looking forward to being able to travel more. The downside is that that means less time to dye discs, because if I'm not here, I can't, take all my dye shit with me. But the upside is I get to play disc golf where we go. Yeah. So, I still haven't played international. Like we took disc with us to Japan when we were there, but, it's like, was not easy to figure out like, okay, how do I go from like the city to the middle of fucking nowhere to play disc golf? Mm-hmm. Like it was difficult. I did the same thing in Ireland. Like when I went to Ireland and I brought disc with me and I had like a weekend planned where I was like, I had everything worked out. And then I had, a few too many beverages, as happens in Ireland. And I maybe fell down a little bit and broke some ribs. And I didn't get to go play disc golf. So I spent the weekend like Googling, is it safe to fly with broken ribs instead of like playing disc golf? So, yeah.
I feel like you travel and the first day you break something, then you don't play disc golf.
Shut up. Anyways, I never put those things together. Yeah. So,
well, if you're ever in the Wisconsin area, hit me up.
I
don't know
will,
why you would ever come here,
like, but there's like a bunch of people in Wisconsin area. It's like you and Kateri and
there's like 12 people,
and there's a bunch of Dyers there. It would be fucking amazing to like get together and just go play disc golf with all you guys.
Yeah, there's Sunchaser 414 Customs. There's Midwest Dye Labs. There's Donnie Dyes. It Flies, It Dyes. That guy. And there's a shit more than I thought. Ugly hand-painted dyes, I think, or something like that. But anyways, come to Wisconsin. Just don't come during the winter.
See, I was going to pick winter because then we could go ice fishing. I've never done that. It's a bucket list item. Similar to eating whale. Whale was a bucket list item.
So when you were in the Philippines, did you ever have their delicacy balut?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Twice. So I have pictures. I have video. And I did it the second time completely stone sober.
Yeah, I was in the Philippines. I went to Cebu, and
nice.
I was willing to try a lot of stuff. Like I had the street food chicken intestines, but
I got
the almost developed chicken fetus. Just doesn't really hit the spot for me.
Like the first time that I had it, like there's different grades or something of balut that you can get. Some of them are like the duck is teeny tiny and it's mostly just egg with like a little tiny duck stuck to it. There's other ones that are like, they got them like right before they hatch. Like they were just about to punch out and they got dropped in the fucking boiling pot of whatever they boil them in, probably water. But that was what I had the first time. Like it was like a duck. Like I opened the egg and there was a duck in it. And luckily I was like fucking hammered, so I just powered through and it was great. But man, just the flavor actually is phenomenal. It tastes like a really savory like chicken broth. Like it's actually, the flavor is amazing. But you have to imagine this like really amazing like savory umami like flavor with the texture of a duck in your mouth, like bones and like fuzz, like feathers and beak and feet.
Yeah.
Like it was not really good. The second time I did it, I was sober, and we got a younger one, and that one actually was really easy because it was just like an egg with a little teeny tiny duck in it, so that was no problem. So yeah.
Anywho, next section. Dream date. If you had to play around with a professional disc golf player and hang out with them, who would you pick and why?
Do they have to be alive?
No.
So, I would really like to play now at a place like say Pier Park or like Birds of Paradise or what is it, Maple Hill, with Steady Ed, and just like with new discs and new stuff, and see like, because he's the guy that started it, and there's a dude here in Silicon Valley, Jim Chalice, who's from, I think he's from Minnesota, so arch enemies obviously, but like he knew Steady Ed, and like Jim like came up with one of the initial designs for the basket, and it's sort of like an inverted cone thing that has like, you know, the basket around it, but it was like instead of chains, it was like I don't know, some weird cone thing. But you know, like seeing him now like play the courses here and stuff, like he's still, I mean, the dude's like in his mid to late 70s, and he still can like bomb drives and just like putt like a machine. And I mean, he had a heart attack a couple of years ago, and like open heart surgery with all these bypasses, and like a week later he's carrying fucking 5-gallon buckets of water to go, like, you know, give water to the, you know, one thing we don't have here is water. So you know, you have to like cart all of your water into the places, and he's like, you know, just out of the hospital, like carting these big like heavy buckets of water to like give water to these little plants that he planted in the course. That's like, in his mind, it's like, we need these plants exactly right here, like these toyon bushes. And I think it would just be really cool to take someone like Steady Ed and go to, you know, like Maple Hill and play with Ed in his prime with like today's discs, but with his knowledge of like how it all started. Be like, what is your opinion on this? Like, where have we come? Did you expect this? Like, it would just be really interesting to get that perspective of someone that started, you know, with basically fucking pie tins, and to see him now, you know, have like all this crazy gyro stuff. So that would be really interesting. Like there's a lot of pros that I'm sure would be super fun to play with. Like, you know, Garrett Grithy would probably be interesting to play with. And as much hate as he gets, like Nico, I would totally play with Nico. But yeah, like having someone from the very like bleeding edge of disc golf see how it has come today, and like just the way the sport has grown, the way that the entire like ecosystem of disc golf, like to just experience them experiencing that would be phenomenal. Like not so much even just the playing, but just the experience, the learning, and the awe. Like I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's a great answer that no one has said yet, but that is a very unique perspective.
Well, that's what I'm going with.
Awesome. No, I really like that, actually. All right. Well, if you stuck around this long, good for you, because there was wealth and nuggets of knowledge everywhere that Keith said. So, not everything he says is not important. So I don't know where I was going with that, but he is going to be raffling off a disc. So when this podcast gets released, you will have a chance to win this awesome disc that isn't quite finished in this podcast, but it will be.
I still got to do the dude.
And yeah, if you want to explain the disc even for the audio listeners.
Yeah. So it's for our listeners, this is a silver glimmer boatman. Westside Boatman, and it's the it's not the white glimmer, which some of you have seen, which is actually like opaque. This is the one that is like, it almost looks like an older Innova Metal Flake, but it's really just like silver pearl. The whole disc is silver pearl. And on it, I have done, it is a traditional Japanese style tattoo that has a gigantic, what is this, goldfish? I was going to say catfish, but it has scales, so it's not that. It has a gigantic orange, red, and yellow goldfish that's like bigger than a man. And there's a man that's wearing like literally just a headband and swim shorts, and he's holding a sword in his mouth. I'm assuming he's going to make sushi. I'm not really sure what his motivation is. But yeah, and I have like a nice background of waves that are similar to the Hakusai style of the Great Wave off Kanagawa, and it's done with my lotion fade and texture plus glue beds. I also like delve into a bunch of like detail painting with lotion and some shading with like alcohol and acetone, and it's pretty cool. It's actually turning out real nice. Like I kind of like this one. So,
now you don't want to raffle it off. It's mine.
No, I totally, like, that's the thing. Like, I want there is one caveat though. Like, whoever buys this thing, throw it. These are not permanent. Like, nothing in life is permanent. Like, use it and enjoy it while you can. Like, this thing, it's going to look great for a long time because of the processes that I used and the colors that I used. But, man, enjoy it. Go show it to people. Like, go get some fucking sick aces with it. Like, seriously, don't hang it on your wall. Put it in your bag. Throw these things. It's, if you chuck it into a lake, I can always make more. There's always more. So, yeah, that would be the one thing I would hope. Whoever buys it, whoever wins this thing, please throw it. That's what they're born to fly.
So, again, this raffle will go live when this podcast gets released, and it'll be live for 2 weeks, and you can win this amazing dye disc for as little as $1. So, head over to dyersguild.co/raffle to get entered today. So, Keith, where can people find your dye work to see that or get some dye commissions and or buy anything dye related?
All right. That is a really great question. You can find me and my business partner, Chris Tanis, on discdyeing.com. We also have discdyeing.com all spelled out as an Instagram handle. And really we do, collaboration work there. We do, if you don't like my style, if you don't like Chris's style, we have, at this point, over 200 artists on the site. I guarantee you, out of those 200, you can find some style that you like. We also sell all the supplies and all the discs and dyes and bottles and stuff that you could ever need. Find it on discdyeing.com.
Fantastic. Well, Keith, it was a pleasure talking to you. I, again, learned a lot of good nuggets from your information that I'm going to try to apply to my dyeing stuff whenever I have time because I'm so busy with the Dyers Guild. But thank you again for taking time out of your day. So until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.